Okay, YouTube, how we going? Um, this stream here, again, I'm gonna try and keep it to half an hour-ish. Um, I'm gonna explain or roughly go through all this sort of crap. I briefly done it on the last stream when I was not the one with the layering, but the one prior to like how I wired these up. But I thought I'll give a little rundown of what things can do what, and how you can use that to create a character or um, an interaction or something to happen, stuff like that. Some can be done, like obviously, again, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but some ways are more thermal friendly, other ways are less thermal friendly. Um, some take less wiring, some take more wiring. Some are like obscure, some are more like, oh, that's so obvious. So I just thought I'd do a quick little thing. My most used, that's just the background. My most used ones are that one there, for microchip. That is literally just a blank microchip. It is sort of, think of it like a blackboard or a whiteboard or something like that, or a corkboard that you can pin notes onto. And that is usually used, for example, like that would be a version of this. If we come into, for example, the lights, that is a version of that. The reason I say version is because obviously what you do with it from here changes what that chip is. So for example, if you want it to be just a simple, when you walk into an area, a light comes on, you would do something along the lines of, like I did with them, you could go into the green section, which is usually your, think of it like an activator section. What's it actually called? Sensors and inputs. So think of it like so activators. So you got like your sensor, your tag. Now a tag is sort of like when you get a pet and it's got a microchip in it, and if someone finds the animal, they can scan it. It's the same kind of thing. The tag is the same as a chip. The receiver and the transmitter are just a wireless connection. The controller sensor, it's literally just when you're using your controller or your move controllers, this is the thing that it inputs. If you come into the actual thing and you go across to the imp icon, you can see what kind of possession it has. So whether it's none, possessible, imp to follow, and then remote. That one and that one I don't really use. Possessible means, for example, like this one here, how you can possess it. But if you want it to be a remote, so you don't possess it, the imp doesn't go inside the object or character, then you'd set it to remote. And obviously these ones here is because you can't do split screen, but you can do 4-player. So you can have 4 people playing on the same screen at once. And you can say, for example, this puppet can only be possessed by player 1. You turn those 3 off, and then only player 1 can possess, well, this chip. So this chip here currently is reading the controls from my controller, player 1's controller. Whereas if I went like that to there, it would only read from player 2's controller. With them all on, it can read from all 4 players' controllers. So if you have, for example, like those light switches, that's actually a good example. If I go into play mode, when you tap on them, when not in the puppet, it cycles. Actually, I'll turn it on because remember I wired it up so you turn them on. When you're clicking on it, it's changing the color. That is because it's a remote. It's not a This actually isn't a remote because it doesn't actually have a controller in there, but it's the same theory. That, because if you look in here, it's literally the grab sensor. When it detects the imp, it will run that, and that is wired into the hue color. So the longer you hold it, the further it goes around, it will change the hue. But it works off the same principle. You're not actually possessing it, you're interacting with it. That's what the remote does. Whereas if you want to say you go inside of it to use it, you'd go to possessable. Pretty much that screen and those ones there are how it interacts from your end. So like, for example, what inputs you press for things to do. That one and that one are what comes out of it. So think, for example, if I speak, you can see this one here, that microphone one is flashing, so you can add thing there. If, for example, the puppet dies, it puts out a signal from there. There are some inputs, like you can put a microphone input to it. Same with the respawn and the die. They do have inputs, but generally speaking, it's where you go to for your outputs. And this is more where the camera is. But if you're not possessing it, if you're remoting it, then the camera one is pretty much useless because you're not going to be inside this chip. So that's pretty much what the controller sensor does. So for example, if you want a really quick example here, we're going to go remote, and we're not going to add the we're not going to add the trigger zone. We're just going to leave it on permanently. But we're going to quickly just go into here and grab, like I said before, with the toggles, and just say you want just a quick note too, if you're having it as a remote, where it goes from circle around to depossess, you can delete that one. And same with the is dead to respawn, you could probably get rid of that as well. But if you want the object to be able to be destroyed or killed, then it'll leave this one connected. But then we can go, for example, circle to that. And obviously it's invisible, like we're not going to be able to see this in the world. So what we can do is we'll add a, where are we? Oh yeah, we'll go fog. So we'll go to fog. Now the fog is literally just like, it's an emitter of like fog. On one of my earlier streams, I showed how you can use the fog for water, for clouds in the sky and stuff like that. But all we're going to do with this one is make it so it can toggle on and off the fog. We're not going to worry about what the fog does. We're just going to go, when I press circle, the signal come out of here, go into this one down here, and go to the next output. And the next output from A is B. And then we ran the line from B to the actual item. So therefore B is on, A is off. That's why I will call that a toggle. It's not a toggle, it's a selector, but if you've only got two outputs, it's a toggle. It goes from on to off. So now when I'm possessing anything, I can possess this one. If I press circle, I will depossess the puppet because that's its default function. But if you see, the fog is now there. And every time I press circle, even if I'm not possessing a puppet, it will toggle the fog on and off. Because it's on remote, it works from any controller, anywhere on the map. Whereas if I done possess, and then backed out, you can't see it's there, but if I go to around about where it is, if I can find it, it's there somewhere. Oh wow, that's going to be hard. I could possess it, because I've got it on possessable. And if I press circle, it doesn't toggle on and off because it's not on remote. It's on possess. So, oh wow, I was way off. Okay, I was over here somewhere. So that's the controller sensor. Some of the other useful ones you could do. If you're going to have, for example, extra functions to your character. For example, a third person and a first person camera, which are different modes, which is what my rig does. You'd have two sensors. Because if you have the sensor that's in the puppet already, we'll use this puppet for a good example. Can I? Thank you. Go into there. There's the controller. And as you can see, it's on possessable. But if I want to add, for example, a function that doesn't, how can I explain it? Just say you want, for example, a light to move when you move your camera. If you turn around and just wire the look stick, which is, bring it up so you can see it. That one there is your walk, and the right stick is your look. If I wire anything up into the look stick, so if I grab something I can do that's easy enough done. If I grab a light, just plonk a light like that, point it at the puppet so you can see it's on. And if I grab, for example, the look and wire it into there, whenever I move the look stick, if I push play, whenever I move the look stick, it will send a signal through there and to whatever I want it up to. But now if I go into, it's probably not going to play up, I can't move the camera around, but it's flashing the light. But if I want that to happen and to be able to still move around the camera, that's where you'd put the secondary one in. So for example, this one here. I'll just delete that for now. Come into here, we'll grab another controller sensor. We will come into it. We're going to remove possess. And we're going to come into here and go remote. And then the exact same wiring I've done on the other one, do that. Do the exact same wiring I've done there. So I grabbed the right stick and I'll wire that into the thing. But because this one here is a remote function, it will not do anything to interfere with this one. So no longer is the right stick. The right stick on this one is still look around, but the right stick on that one is the light. So if I now possess it, the camera will now rotate around the character, but the light will also come on. So that's why I use that. Normally I would only go for the two, the main and the secondary. And if you're one of those kind of people that can never remember which is which, you can always come into them and press the L1 and square to bring up this. And you can change the name of it to whatever you want to say. You could say remote. So now when you look at it, it says remote controller sensor. So you could tell it apart. A lot of these things will have a color option. So for example, if I go that one, it doesn't have a color option. But if I go to where are we? Tags, no color option. But if I go to one that does, for example, the basic chip, it has a color option. So that's why I would generally speak grab the empty chip, place it in whatever I want to place it in, come into here, rename it to whatever, so say chip. And then while I'm in here, I can change the color that represents what I'm doing and the icon. So for example, if it's a chip that's going to hold all your character's moves, you'd use something that represents that. Or if it's going to be, for example, like that one's the light, so you'd grab the, where is it? The light icon. So now it's a yellow chip with the light icon and then it's labeled chip. So you're not going to lose what you're doing on that particular puppet with the extra controller. So that's that sort of stuff done. So if we go into here, so that's the input. So grab sensor, when you place it on a surface, if I come back out, grab the grab sensor, and place it just say there. Whenever the imp goes over it, I've got a place you can see. Oh no, because it's going to go to there. I'll move to the edge and depossess. Whenever the imp goes over that, okay, I can't remember where I placed it. Whenever it goes over it, you'll see it'll light up differently. Okay, it's right there. So it's gonna give it to me. No, okay. It will sense that the imp is there and go, okay, do what it's been told to do. Without going into details, that's what the chip looks like. If you turn this one on, so for example, if I go now and go to the base and tell it that when the imp is hovering over that chip, we will have it light up. We'll go at 10% light. If we go like that, now when I go to play mode, whenever I hover over the item it's on, it will light up. If I don't put it in on the item, so for example, it's snapped to the item, but if I go, just say to there, now I have to be hovering at the exact spot where that chip is for it to light up this. I'll talk properly so you can see what I'm talking about. Get rid of that. We're going to place, just so you can see what I'm talking about, we'll just grab a little cube. Just so I can place the chip on there without it interfering with the thing. So if I grab that, okay, so it's on that, but I want to grab this one, and when it's hovering, to light it up. So you'd think, from what you just saw, that when I hover over this, it'll light, but it doesn't, as you see. It's hovering over where the chip is, the sensor is. It will light up. Same with if you change it into the grab function. If you put it into the grab function, which I believe is that one, you have to actually hover over it and then pull the trigger to grab before it will activate. So if I move it from there to there, and I go play, hovering over it doesn't do anything. But if I grab the item, where are we? Why are you not registering? Hey viewer, it would, oh, because that item there's not grabbable. If the item was grabbable, then you could grab it and it would light this up. So if I, for example, jump in there, I just got to quickly go like this and go imp interaction, grab. Now it should work. Hovering over it, it doesn't light up. But the second I grab it, so I've got hold of it, that's why the imp's stretching, the floor lights up. So that's how the grab sensor works. So that's good, for example, if you want to make, like, for example, the door on the fridge, or the way the light sensor works and stuff like that. When you hover over it, you can make it do one thing. So maybe for, like, example, a door, when you hover over it, maybe the door handle lights up a little bit. But then when you grab it, it will turn the door handle. So you could make hover, click to open the door. And then because it's grabbable, if this was movable, you could grab it and move it like that. I haven't got a switch to movable, but to do that, you just got to go into the, I don't know what you'd call that, the click clock thingy, and just click on movable. But when you do that, it will then apply to gravity. That's why if you don't want it to go crash into the ground, you turn that off, and you turn that off. So I can now turn that on, and then when I'm in play mode, it will sit there, but I can actually grab it and move it. And whenever I grab it and move it, the floor will light up because I've got the grab sensor in there that's telling it that when it's grabbed, it's to light that up. Okay. If I want to go through everything, it's going to take me forever. So I'm going to do the main useful ones. Power switch, that's a useful one, especially if you want something to stay on or off. all these angle sensors, and that's more advanced stuff. I won't get into it too much. Randomizer is a handy one. So if you, for example, want this character to be a random color, you can literally put it into the chip, go like this, grab the randomizer, and then if you tell it to every time something is done, it is to randomize an output of one of these. So if you turn that up to, for example, full, every time it is triggered, it will randomly select any of these and put a signal out. So you can then wire up, for example, grabbing a piece of that, and you can go, we'll say only on A is that to be visible. So every time it is triggered, there is a 1 in whatever you set that to chance of it to be invisible, or to be visible, I should say. And that's where the randomizer is good. So that's good for like randomizing enemy locations, something like that. You could place 5 enemies and have each enemy wired up to spawn when it is triggered, and it only triggers one at a time. So an enemy could be in 1 of 5 locations each time you start. That is where the randomizer is handy. What else have we got in here that's handy? The timer, self-explanatory. If you're not much in the way of Minecraft as example, they've got the same systems. Not gate, OR gate, AND gate. The way that these all work is, this one's an AND gate, so both inputs need an actual power source before it will put a power source out there. This one is, if any of them have an input, it will put an output. This one is, if it's got an input, it will not put an output. Or if it has no input, it will put an output. So this is like a inverter, if you want to call it that. And then you got things like the calculator. Again, without going into too much of it, you can like divide it by, or if it's less than, or if it's greater than. So if you want it to be, if the character is moving faster than a certain speed, it would do something. Then you would wire it up through here. You'd grab its speed movement, go into the top, and then tell it if it's greater than, for example, 0.5, so half its full speed, it will put out a signal. And that's what that one does. It's good for if you want the character to, if it's running to sweat, or if it's running to make a certain noise, puff or something like that, you could use that for that. These two here are handy for putting in multiples or wiring up a controller sensor, for example, like your sticks, so your left stick or your right stick, or any of that. Because what happens is if you put an input from one of your sticks into there, it will then give you a dual output. And the dual output can be used, if I grab that, and it's through the left stick, so that's good. If I go from there to there, and there to there, when I move my stick, if I go to play, move my stick, it will send a signal through whichever one it is. So for example, if I move it up and down, it would go either X or Y, or okay, if I do another one like this, you can see exactly what I'm on about. So it gets all four things. So there we have up, down, left, right. It's not necessarily in that order. I think that's actually up. So if I grab now just so you can see what I mean. If I grab them and wire them into that, and because it's in play mode, it should work. Up, no, it's not going to show me? No. Remote, there we go. So as you can see, when I move it, you can see on the little actual chip itself that it fills up black. That's how much power it's getting. And that is where it's handy if you need to say only when it's moving forward to do something, or when the stick is pushed up for it to do something, you'd use those. Rewind. I was wondering why it wasn't working because I wasn't possessing it. So that's what they are good for. And obviously that is to split it from a single to a double, and that is to bring it back again. So if you've got, for example, these signals, but you want both up and down to both put the signal into the same action, you then wire those two into that chip, and then it would put out a signal out there. Movers and stuff like that, none of that's all that low end. It's all usually like higher end stuff, except for health manager, health modifier, and then your different bubbles, speech bubbles and stuff like that, and the rumbler. All this other stuff here is more for if you want to make energy fields or something to spin and stuff like that. So, for example, like I was saying, you could use a teleporter to have the character teleport onto the toilet seat to sit. That's the teleporter. If you want to add a wind, a breeze, you'd use the force applier. In here is your basic overall game mechanics. So things like prize bubbles, entry and exits. That is so if you place it, you can tell it, for example, exit or entry. So that's the start of the level. That's where you spawn. Exit would be, that's how you leave. So when you get within this area, you leave. And that is if you can enter and leave at the same location. And obviously you wire it up. When it gets power, it does its thing. That's why you'd place it in a chip and tell it that when something is done, whether it be a button press or something enters the area, to activate, and if it's on exit or entry, it would do the exit or entry. That's just a blank puppet you can place in the map. That is your puppet interface, which is exactly the same as that. This one here is for VR. So it's not much use when you're not VR creating. If you're just doing normal creations, that one there isn't much good to you. And that one there is your hand or imp tracker. That can be useful in non-VR stuff, but it's more for VR stuff. Then you got your camera stuff, which is not just cameras, but it's cameras, your lights, the fog, your skybox. So you can place that, then you can edit it again, L1 and square. You can tell it how bright the sun is, how bright the sky is. So you can, in theory, have a really bright sun, but the sky is still black. You can also have a really dark sky, dark sun, so no suns are out, but the sky is bright. So think of this as a light box, and think this is a light bulb. So everyday outside stuff, yes, the sun could be really bright. So we'll say 20% brightness. That's not bright. Okay, 60% brightness, 65% brightness, whatever. That's how bright the sky, the sun is. But obviously with ambience and stuff like that, clouds, the sky bounces around that light a certain amount. So your sky wouldn't necessarily be as bright as the sun, because when you look up at the sky, not at the sun, you don't go blind. But if you look at the sun, you go blind. So if that was a 65, you could set the sky as say 25, and that will look perfectly normal. You just got to remember that the skylight actually does cast light, and same with the sunlight casts light. That's why there's the shadow, and you can actually adjust how much detail the shadow has. So the higher that goes, the further away the sun is, the less like, how do I explain it easily? when you see a shadow and you see it like when the object is really close, the shadow is really sharp, and then as it gets further away, it blurs. That's what pretty much what that does. It adjusts like how far something has to be away before the shadow starts going blurry. And all this here is like, if you look here, how you can see how it goes from a light color to a dark color. That will turn that off, or turn it on more severe. That will change the difference between that circle and that circle. So big differences, less differences. How much color it has, and the color it's choosing from is that. So if I go to red, I said go to red, thank you. More red, less red. The fleck type, so what pattern is in the background, and whether there's an image. You can't choose image, but it's preset images. So you can't go, oh, I want a picture of Hello Kitty in the background. It's not that, it's that. So when you look at it, it will be of that kind of pattern. So that's how the skybox works. A ruler, it's literally just a box that you can't see when you go into play mode. But while you're in creation mode, you can see it, and you can actually adjust its sizing. So you can say, just say you want something to be a meter tall. You can tell it a meter tall. So 3 meters, turn it to 3 meters. It will then show you a 3 meter thing. So for example, if you want to create a real object, just say you have a statue or some sort of ornamental thing, and you know it's 3 meters tall, 2 meters wide. You can tell this cube to be that size, and then you can build it within that, and it's the right scale. Outside being directly related to a real life object, it's not that important. So if you're just creating stuff to be stylish or to look cool, then this isn't going to be that useful. But if you're trying to recreate something that's in real life, like a bedside table that is exactly 1/2 meter tall, then you can come into here. Now, 1/2 meter tall, so you get 0.5. That's how tall I've got to make the model in the world. So that's where that is handy. So it is handy. Swipers and the gradients, it's adding special effects. So less color, more color, really bright, darker, blooms and stuff like that. Well, it's no good if it's dark. So it adds more like a halo-y feel. Vignetting is the shadows around the edges, which I will always turn off. Same with the blur, I will always turn that off, because blur on. This one here is motion blur. When you possess a puppet and move, you'll see blurriness. And it's like, no, real life vision, things don't blur unless they're moving super quick. So unless you're making the flash, don't put blur on it. That's your joints. I think I showed that when I was actually, maybe I didn't. I can do that in the next stream because I'm running out of time. And then you get your sounds. So that's pretty much a quick rundown of what all your chips and everything can do. I'm not going to upload anything because I haven't done anything. I just showed you what everything can be done. If you want to create interactions, the stream I done where I wired that, and that, it does have a quick little, I quickly do some of this stuff, and you can see, and then you can watch this one and go, that's why, because he used that thing and it does that. Again, like as I said in the other stream, sitting on the toilet here, two main ways you can do it. Have it through the keyframes, which I done on this version. It has the keyframes. Actually, the keyframes for that are actually in the toilet. So one moves the puppet to its location, and the other one does the animation. I done it this keyframe instead of doing a teleport. The teleport would take over that one's purpose, where the teleport will always teleport to it. So therefore you can copy this without having to edit that keyframe. But for me, it's easier just to edit the keyframe. Teleport, I just find it too much hassle. I just prefer keyframes. Well, I'm going to call it there. If you have any issues on Dreams, and I can help you, I'm more than happy to help. Again, if you're stuck in Dreams, like you want to make a character or anything like that, and you're not real good at the basic stuff like making the base character, by all means check out my creations or somebody else's creations. And for example, most of my creations are usually base puppets. They are starting points. So for example, if I go to here, public, my last release is this one here, which I've done recently. It's a starting point. Grab it, edit it to your heart's content. It has some basic functions. It has the pose. Obviously, change your pose to however you like. It's on the touchpad. It has 3 cameras set up. Again, move the cameras to how you like. So it's got basic starter stuff. It's got a jump, left shoulder, right shoulder to jog, hold both to run, and the stamina bar there. It's all placeholder starter stuff. When that bar runs out, the reason the bar is visible is so that you can see how long it takes. You adjust the timer for how long you can run for. When that runs out, you can't sprint anymore. Your character just jogs. But at the moment, you just release and redo it again, and you're instantly back to running again. The joints, relatively, I don't want to call them seamless, but smooth. I'm generally not going for seamless because it's going to take me I could do it. I could spend the time and do it, but it's like for just me to use it, because generally speaking, if I'm going to spend that much time on it, I'm going to put all the detail I can on it. And being an artist, the character will have details that their moderation system does not like, so it will not get released. So I'm not going to spend hours and days and months making a seamless body where you cannot see the joins and have it so that when you move, it's still seamless, because that's what I would aim for, just for me to use it offline. So I'll go for a smooth look. So all the joints, that's why the puppet does that pose, all the joints are, however much you move the puppet, it will stay relatively, I say relatively because there are issues, but it's relatively smooth-ish. So yeah, feel free to use it. If you make something out of it and you think it's pretty cool, share it with me. If I like it, I'll give you a thumbs up. Generally speaking, unless you make something that's literally just that painted, I'll normally give you a thumbs up. Or if you make something, whereas if I possess it and it all freaks out and goes to God knows what, then that's usually where we're going, okay, that's not getting a thumbs up. That needs some work. But if it's quite entertaining, it's original, and I feel that you've put some effort in, then I'll give you a thumbs up. I have plenty of creations. That one there and that one there are not my creations. I've just edited them to be more usable. A lot of the time I'll see a creation. Same with this one here. This one here was a isometric thing. And I didn't like the isometric thought. I thought, there's no use for that. So I made it you put your puppet in, it's now all squished together and it's all usable as one building. Same with the car. This one here is a meter-molecule car I've re-edited and placed into a city that somebody else made. That guy there made the city, I believe, and then the car is a meter-molecule creation, and all I done was corrected the steering, because the steering wheel's alongside the car, so that's why I had to fix that. And your imp never sat in the driver's seat like that, so I fixed that. Again, the city is a respawning, so as you can see up ahead, there is no road after a certain point, but if I drive forward, it will start spawning in new road, and it will do it indefinitely. So that's all I've done here. It's a lot of tweaking, but no actual creating of such from me. So that's why I will usually write, where are we? Oh, this is a good example. I will normally write in here, it's not my creation, all I've done was simply put it in a basic pose, made it possessable, and corrected any anomalies. So check out the original creator. And to do so, you just go to this creation here, and you can see it's a remix of that by that person. So just click on that, and it will take you to the original creation. And if I go to view, you'll see here it's literally just, you cannot possess the character. It's literally just like a statue or a screenshot or whatever you want to call it. So all I've done is deleted all this stuff around it, got rid of the pinkness, put the character in a standard basic pose, and made it possessable. Okay, well that's it. I'm out of here. I am a little over time. I'm closer to the hour, and as I was trying to keep them short. But I'm gonna call it. You guys stay safe. Take it easy. Again, if you need help and you're on Dreams, don't be embarrassed. Throw me a message. Say, look, dude, I'm stuck. Is there any chance I can get a hand? I'm usually happy to help. All right. Catch you next time. Stay safe. Look after each other.